Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to Build with the CEO. My name is Trevor. I am the CEO of Coach Catalyst, and I'm excited to be here with you on this wonderful Tuesday. And today, I'm going to talk about some things I've learned as a coach. So I've been in the coaching industry probably coming on close to 15 years. I started actually coaching people when I was a junior in college, and that was in about 2006, 2007. So yeah, we're coming up on it. And it's been a lot of things that I've learned over the years. And my goal today is to share some of those insights for you, or so that if you're a new coach, maybe you don't make some of the same mistakes, or maybe you get an aha moment, or just a reason to keep pushing as a coach, because we need more coaches in the world. I think coaching is one of the most noble professions. I think everybody needs coaches in lots of different aspects of life, more now than ever. So let's talk about it. Let's get to it. So we'll kind of start at the beginning. And I think this applies to a lot of different business type strategies, is just do it. I think too many times we try to get the perfect starting point. I want the perfect program. I want everything to be perfect before I launch it into the marketplace. And I think if you have it perfect, you've started too late, right? You've missed the mark. And so putting things out there and iterating, because what happens is what you originally put out isn't necessarily what it's going to be like forever. It's going to evolve from there. To give you an example, like I started in the boot camp world with my facilities. I started training lots of people with bands out on a basketball court, but I really just started with the tools that I had at my disposal. So I think all of us have unique tools at our disposal. And so it's starting with what you have now and then iterating, making it better. And now we're in a 6,000 square foot facility and all that fun stuff. And we have every toy but we started with what we had available. And I didn't have money available. But I was able to negotiate a really, really great lease, 5% of my income. I kind of wish I still had that lease, but 5% of my income. I had access to an audience of people. So I think that was one thing that, looking back on it, I was working out of a local community center. So there was a lot of visibility when I was training people. So other people saw it and they were interested in it early on. And so I think early on, if you can get some visibility in what you're doing, that's one of the reasons why I talk a lot about trying to get out in public and do public speaking, because that's a level of visibility that you can get. And in-person is going to drive the know, like, and trust factor much faster than any sort of online presence. I think online presence is important and we need to build that piece of it. But to get started right now, getting in front of people and providing value is by far one of the best ways. So it's really just jumping before you're ready. I think that's one of the things that I learned is you can't wait for it to be perfect. Launch the thing and then figure out how to make it perfect. Coach Catalyst is another really good example. Both Ken and I are not technical, right? And so we wanted to launch a tech company, but we had no idea how to write any code. And Coach Catalyst's first iteration is much different than what it is today. And so things evolve as we go. But if we had waited to create the perfect thing, we probably would have been too late. And so I would rather get something out there, let the market tell you whether or not they want that thing, right? And then they can help you kind of shape it to fit what you want, what you ultimately maybe dreamed of what it was going to be. So I think that's one of the first things is just do it. Just go ahead and do it and figure it out. Even if you get one person, right? That's one person to give you feedback. There's many times when I was starting my kind of personal training or even group training career, and there'd be one person that would show up to a session, one person, right? But they showed up. And so it was on me to give my all for that person in that session. So that's one of the first things. The next thing that it took me way too long to learn was this idea of just having systems around what you do. And so after you coach for a little while, you're going to figure out that people kind of fall into buckets. And when a lot of people think about systems, I should kind of back this up. When a lot of people think about systems, they think about systems in like a business standpoint, like a marketing system or a sales system. Like, well, those are important, right? I think having a coaching system, because once you have a coaching system, you can now start to develop templates around that system. And early on as a coach, I think it's best to just borrow other people's systems. I early on tried to just create a lot of my own stuff rather than just borrowing from others that were more experienced and smarter than me. And so I think borrowing, and you can borrow by getting certified, doing mentorships, doing things like that, that help give you those systems to allow you to just run their system. And then you can iterate from there. I don't remember who I heard this from. I think it was potentially like Mike Boyle, but like you have to learn how to cook the recipe before you get to actually alter the recipe. So just follow the recipe. Early on as a coach, follow the recipe. Follow the recipe, get great at following the recipe, and then you can start to cook your own recipes. But I think too early on, and I felt I'm as guilty as anyone early on trying to create my own recipes when I didn't necessarily have a diverse enough knowledge base to be able to create my own recipes. So right away, just follow the recipe. The next thing that I think I did well early on was just hiring a business coach. Most people get into coaching because they have a passion for helping people. They love helping people. They love changing lives. They're passionate about the content, the information, education, getting that out to people. But they haven't really spent a whole lot of time thinking about their business. And so hiring a business coach, even if it really stretches you thin early on, I think can be a great way to help you build or help you fill that knowledge gap that you're most likely going to have early on. And there's lots of business coaches out there. And there's lots of different business coaches at different price points. And so just do your research around it. But early on, I hired a business coach and was with them for about 8 to 10 years. And they helped fill gaps in my knowledge that I just didn't have early on. And so I think that can help you start to accelerate things a little bit faster. But now I want to go a little bit deeper on this idea of systems. So I think starting to look at your business in these different systems and starting to build these out. And we'll talk maybe specifically about the coaching system, right? One mistake I see a lot of young coaches make, especially from a programming standpoint, is they are starting from scratch each time they're trying to create a workout program. And I did this a lot too. I felt like I needed to make this perfect program for this client because they're a special snowflake, and I need to find all these really obscure exercises for them. And I've been coaching for like over a decade. You realize that people kind of fall into these buckets, and you can create templates for these buckets. And then you can modify that template to fit the individual. This cut programming for me down from, taking 30 minutes to do a program to 5 to 10 minutes. And there wasn't a drop off in the quality, right? Because we worked off of a template and then we just tweaked it to fit. So it was still individualized. We still tweak things, but I wasn't starting from scratch. I wasn't starting with a blank sheet of paper. It's so much easier to edit than it is to create from scratch. So we spend time creating our coaching system, right? If we're a nutrition coach, what are the things that we could potentially teach a client, right? What are the habits? What are the educational points that I want to be able to instill with my clients? All right, we can build out those different systems, right? We can build out those different systems. And then when I have a new client, I can just deliver that system. So I think that's a really good way to get started. And when you're doing this as well, when you're doing this with that first or second or third client, just document things. That was a big mistake I made early on, was I wasn't documenting things. I could have been building a lot of these systems because I was building them for the client, but then you take basically the client's name off it, right? And now it just becomes a coaching system that you can utilize. Right. And so I think just building things as you go, like let's say you're building stuff in Coach Catalyst, saving workouts as you go, saving lessons as you build them. Those kind of things can save you a lot of time because people are going to fall into these buckets. And once you get really dialed in on your avatar and the person that you feel like you can help, you can help the best, now you'll really start to get a lot of content around that. So, so I think just developing those systems around your coaching, and then also your system from onboarding. This is something that we struggled with for a really long time. We just didn't do it because I was the only coach for a long time. I just onboarded them, and I could just do it, right? Because I was the only coach. But as we started to bring on other coaches, we had to think about that system a little bit more and how do we improve it. And that was a mistake. I should have had an onboarding system for me early on because it would have actually made my life a whole lot easier. Right. So what did the first 5 days, 7 days with a new client look like? You can easily map that out. I've been talking about this a lot lately, but it's worth reiterating on. You want daily videos. You want a video every single day from you because it's starting to form the foundation of the relationship that you're going to have with that client. And this is a scalable process, right? You can do it with 1, 2, 5, 10, 50 people, online coach, offline coach. It just provides a great systemized experience for new clients. And then you can just keep updating it and keep making it better rather than you just kind of figuring it out each time. Some things I'd like to include in this. I mean, we've done entire episodes on this, and I'll probably do another episode on it as well, just because it's worth reiterating, because I think it is that important. We got a video every day. We need to collect information from that client, right? We need their initial intake form. So we need to know their health history. We mean, if we're doing nutrition coaching, we need to know what they're doing right now. All that fun stuff. We probably need to have some sort of waiver that they're signing, terms and conditions, right? If we're not doing that, we're kind of just playing with fire. If you want a little more info on that, go listen to the episode with Jim Lawyers, Matthew Becker. There'll be a little more insight into terms and conditions. But we should have them signing that. And that can be as simple as like a form, terms, conditions, and description, have them type their name in. Good, solid. There should be an expectations. Like, how do we get the most out of this coaching relationship? Because we have to remember that clients are going to be bringing in previous coaching experiences, their own expectations. And if we don't clearly articulate the expectations for this coaching relationship, there leaves opportunity for disappointment. Okay. Because disappointment is really just mismanaged expectations. That's really all it is. I expected something, but I got something different. I'm disappointed. Right. But if we can clearly lay the ground rules, expectations, that leaves less room for error. So certain expectations could be around like, doing a weekly check-in. What's the expectation there? When are you going to follow up with that client on their weekly check-in? How long does it take you to get back to clients from a message standpoint? Is it, I'm going to have my phone with me all the time, I want to get back to you as quickly as possible? Is it 12 hours? Is it 24 hours? Right? What are those expectations? Because if you don't tell a client, and their last coach responded immediately right after they sent messages in, because that coach only had one client, right? And they had the ability to do that. Now they're going to bring that same expectation to this relationship. But maybe you can't handle that because you have 50 clients, right? And so what are the expectations there? What are the expectations around getting feedback on things like workouts? Like, what do you need from a client? And so there's going to be certain technologies that you're going to be using with your clients. We should walk them through it. We shouldn't just like throw this technology at them and say like, hey, I need you to figure out how to use this. Right? It should just all the simple things that we just kind of take for granted when we're onboarding someone, because we've done it so many times. We've seen it 1,000 times. And I iterate this with my coaches a lot, is you have seen a goblet squat 1,000 times, but this client hasn't, right? So it might feel like, oh, I'm seeing this all the time, but you are seeing it all the time, but this client isn't. So we got to kind of put ourselves in the client's shoes. And this is the first time they've seen it. And so onboarding can really help with that. So we've got onboarding around the technology that they're going to be using, maybe onboarding around the check-in process, anything that you're going to be asking of the client. Because we know the better the onboarding process, the better the experience the client is going to have. And make sure you have some action items around the onboarding so we know if the client's actually executing it, if we know that the client is reading the lessons, that kind of stuff, if that's important, right? Because we do want accountability early on, because again, we're setting the expectation around accountability. Right? My guess is if you're a coach that's listening to this, you want to be more than just like a mass market coach. Just put out workouts and let people do them on your own. You're trying to help individuals improve some aspect of their life. Okay. So I think onboarding is huge, and that kind of falls in this whole systems piece. And we could talk about systems around marketing, systems around sales, all of those, but starting to develop those systems. Right. We typically have a few parts to our business. We have a marketing awareness part. How are we getting our name out there? Right. That's one aspect. We have a sales part. So how do we take someone that's interested in what we're doing and move them into a coaching relationship? So what do those sales systems look like? For an online coach or kind of a one-to-one coach, it can be really simple. Getting someone onto a success call, right? Having a little bit of a script for that success call and what information do you need to find out in that success call so you can provide a ton of value, and then essentially asking for the sale, right? Then we have our actual like operations. So what does our coaching look like, right? That's like a lot of the stuff that I talked about before. Our onboarding, what are our weekly deliverables, all of those kind of things, those things that help our client get the result. And then we also have finance, right? So how are we taking care of the financial house? Right? Are we doing monthly bookkeeping, which we should be doing? Are we doing, tax prep? Do we have an accountant? That kind of stuff. And then the last one would be HR. So we're moving into human resources, our team, if we have a team. But it may be us as the main person, and then we may have a lot of kind of helpers, right? We may have a part-time admin. We might have a VA. Those kind of things. And so that's everyone else kind of falls into those. So taking care of that team. So we should have systems around these five key areas. You can break them down into a few more, but those are kind of a good starting point. Some few other kind of best practices and things that I've learned is, this is kind of a simple one, but scheduling messages. For the longest time, I just relied on my brain to remember when to send client stuff, or I'd put a little note in my calendar or things like that. But now I've really gotten in the habit of scheduling messages. So if I have something I want to follow up with the client, I schedule a message. If something happened in a session that I want to follow up on, I schedule a message. I'll look at my week in advance and see with my clients, is there anyone I need to schedule messages for? Maybe there's an important human event or important personal event, that their kid is graduating, big soccer game, promotion, anything like that. Trying to schedule those out so I don't have to remember, right? After you get more than a handful of clients, you're just going to drop the ball on a ton of that stuff. So I just schedule that stuff out. It makes it so simple, and you look like a superhuman as a coach because you're getting all of these touch points with clients. And I think one thing why I've been successful in the coaching world is how much I care about my clients and finding out about personal things, remembering personal things, and just creating that relationship, right? And so I think the more we can do that, the better the relationship that you're going to create with that client, and the longer you're going to keep that client. All of this plays into how long that person stays a client of yours. So I think scheduling messages is a really easy way to do that. The next one from a coaching standpoint is, and this took me, I'm probably over a decade in, was getting into motivational interviewing. If you're mainly in the offline world, right? If you're mainly in the offline world, you're probably going to do the fitness thing, the nutrition thing, all of that right from the get. But motivational interviewing was one of the key components that I missed out on early on. I was kind of just like, here's the plan, you should do it, and why aren't you doing the plan type of thing. And so it wasn't until I don't remember who the first person was that introduced it to me, but learning that skill, and it's really a communication skill. Learning that skill is going to make you a much better coach. There's great books out there. You can just Google motivational interviewing for health and fitness, and things will pop up. There's motivational interviewing for a ton of different categories. And then there's lots of smart people that are teaching more about it. It is a little bit more ubiquitous. It's a little bit more mainstream now than it was before. So you can easily find that stuff. But that is something that I kind of learned that I needed to, and it really helped my coaching practice. Another one that's kind of random is saying I don't know. I think when you say I don't know to a client, but I will find the answer, creates a ton of respect, right, from that client. Because we don't want to BS our way through something. If you don't know, you don't know. Cool. But you have the tools to go find the answer. And I think this is how you create really long lasting relationships with clients, because you become their go-to expert. You become their consultant in a way. And once we become a consultant for a client, right, they really don't want to leave us, right? Because we are the person that is helping find the information that they need to be successful and move towards their goals. And I think I don't know is a great way to create a level of respect, or not necessarily create a level of respect, but saying I don't know gets that respect from a client, that builds even more trust, right? Because they know that you're not going to BS them, and you're going to go find the answer, and then come back to them with what you find out. So saying I don't know. I think early on as coaches, we want to be seen as an expert, and we're trying to prove our worth in a way. But you've learned that saying I don't know actually proves your worth even more, because you're not trying to BS a client, and we're not going to know everything, and that's okay. So yeah, that was kind of some of the things that I wanted to cover today. Maybe give you guys some ideas on ways that you can level up as a coach, things that I learned through my years of coaching that have helped me become a better coach. And we're constantly evolving. We're constantly learning. And I think being that student, no matter what level you get to as a coach, always being a student, because there's always things to learn. And it makes it fun. I love learning and then bringing that stuff to my clients. It actually invigorates me. And if I feel that I'm starting to maybe get maybe a little burned out or things like that, or I feel really diving back into learning helps me kind of ignite my flame to be able to help my clients a little bit more. So hopefully some of this stuff is insightful for you and gives you a little insight. I'd love to know if you have anything. Drop it in the comments. Shoot a message. Because we're all in this together. We need more coaches, and it's all about helping each other level up. So I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you here next week on Build with CEO. See ya.